Hey everybody, this is Jeff Conti again with JC Knives, and this is a video in my continuing series, Knife Sharpening 101. This video is about the different stones or plates you could use and a little bit of extra information about each one. Okay, so let's jump in. Basically I want to talk first about oil stones. So you have man-made and you have natural. The man-made stones, let's see if you can see the line right there. So you have the coarse stone on one side and the fine stone on the other. The coarse stone is probably in the neighborhood of 100 grit or something like that, and the fine stone is probably around 400 grit or 200 grit, something like that. I don't happen to think that the fine grit is particularly fine. So when I go from the coarse to the fine, I go on to another stone, which I'll talk about in a minute, to get a little bit more refined edge or polish to the edge. So that's the man-made silicone carbide oil stone. Then, and of course you can make nice boxes for your oil stones as well, or your man-made, your natural oil stones. I must have gotten a little bit of oil inside this because it doesn't want to come apart. There we go. So this is a natural Arkansas. Sometimes it's called a Washita or a soft Arkansas. And then comes the hard Arkansas, which typically are quite white, but there's almost no imperfections in them. They're really smooth. These are really for putting on a fine, smooth polish to the edge. I don't always go to the hard Arkansas, but it is a very nice edge if you do. So this is the minimum that I will do is the soft Arkansas. So I'll do the coarse silicone carbide, the fine silicone carbide, and then the Washita. And then comes your water stones. This is a man-made water stone. I'm going to say I've had it for 10 years, 15 years. It's 400 grit, so it's not particularly coarse. So again, like the soft Arkansas, this would be my follow-up stone if I was going to use a water stone to the silicone carbide. And then amongst the other water stones, and there's a lot of them by the way, but the man-made stones, I don't have any natural stones by the way, but the man-made stones go all the way up to 6,000 grit. 6,000 is way finer than anything I'm going to do. None of my knives ever get a 6,000 grit. But if I'm going to do something like hone the blades on a broadhead for my arrows, then I would go ahead to the 6,000 grit, because that's where I'm really trying to get that super fine edge, so that when that broadhead pierces my game, it's going to go right through. So the water stones, the man-made ones, they go from 26 grit up through 6,000 grit. And then the diamond plates, which I didn't bring in, those are just a steel plate. Depends on the length that you buy them. Mine are about 10 inches long and about 2 inches wide, and they are a coarse, a medium, and a fine. They're pretty expensive. I want to say they're $80, $90 a piece. The silicone carbide, coarse and fine, it's probably 50, 60 bucks. These soft Washita stones, they're in the $30 category. It's been a long time since I bought one, but that's about right. The hard Arkansas stones, they're quite a bit more expensive. They're a little bit more rare, so for a big one like this, it's a little more expensive, $50, $60, maybe more. The man-made water stones, they start in the $40 category and up into $200 or $300, depending on what you're buying. But if you were to buy the natural Japanese water stones, they're really expensive. Really expensive. The problem with the Japanese natural water stones is that they wear away so fast. Now, to complement that though, or to contradict that a little bit, the reason they wear away so fast is they cut so fast. So you have to constantly flatten them, and what I do is I put it on the concrete floor upside down like this, and I will work the bottom surface on the concrete floor till I get the, usually you get a little bit of a horseback or a little bit of a belly in there from sharpening. But water stones are pretty easy to flatten. The oil stones, they're way harder to flatten, so good luck. If you want to flatten an oil stone, you're probably going to have to go buy a ceramic flattener, and they have little grooves cut through them, and so you put a little bit of oil on there and you rub your stone back and forth, and that ceramic surface cuts away the top surface of your oil stones, whether they're natural or man-made. Also, I wanted to talk about, for the oil stones, I make my own honing oil, and it's 50% 3-in-1 oil or any light machine oil, and the other 50% is kerosene. So you want something really thin, something that'll lay out on your stone. When you put it on there, it'll just kind of flow out. But what you want to be able to do when you're doing your sharpening is build a slurry. So as you run your knife back and forth over your stone, you're going to take a little bit of the stone with it, and it's going to get caught up in that oil. But also the knife shavings that you're grinding off, they're going to get caught up in the oil, and they're not going to plug up the surface of your stone. So that's the purpose of the oil. Water stones, you're going to use them under the faucet, or you're going to store them in water and pull them out, and you're going to keep water nearby, and you're going to hone with them. You got to soak them in water because they'll absorb a bunch of water. But once you start honing, when you lose some of the water on the surface, you got to keep adding more and get that slurry going, and then go ahead and do all your honing. And when you're done, you wash that slurry off, go out to the concrete, flatten your stone, clean it off again nice and clean because you don't want any of that concrete grit on there, and then put your stone back in your tub of water. So it's clean water. Your stones are kept in there, or you bring them out and you got to let them soak for a while till they'll absorb all the water they're going to absorb. For my diamond plates, I should have also said, I use simple grain, but some people use purple power as a lubricant to keep the flakes from the knife from clogging up. And typically with the coarse stones, the coarse diamond, they don't get a lot of grit that clogs up because they're so coarse. But that medium hone and the fine hone, those plates will get up little spots where they've collected some of the metal from your knife, and then it becomes a place that you skip over. So you really do need to use simple green or purple power or something like that on your diamond plates to keep those plates clean, so that when you're honing you get a nice even grind on your plate. Let's see. So that's all I can think of right now. Oil stones, water stones, and diamond plates. And in the oil stones you have the natural and man-made. In the water stones you have natural and man-made. And of course your diamond plates are all man-made. So hey, price-wise and coarseness-wise, these silicone carbide, you can't beat them. You get 2 stones in one. They're really good price. You can get a bigger stone, so you can get a nice long movement on when you're honing. These smaller hones, it's hard to take a 12-inch knife blade and get a good hone all the way across the surface of the knife on such a short stone. So that being said, hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching.